She was dismissed the moment she stepped onto the red carpet. A nameless linen dress, strappy flat sandals, her hair loose and untouched. In her hand, a stack of black and white papers. No binder, no branding. A businesswoman adjusted her Cartier necklace, gave a passing glance and muttered, "Since when did charity galas open their doors to the locals?" A fashion model turned to her friends and laughed behind her hand. "She looks like she walked out of a public library, not a billionaire ball." Rose Avery stood quietly at the VIP check-in. No one asked her name. No one looked at the invitation in her hand. Because to them she had no value. Nothing more than a momentary joke in a glittering room. A woman too quiet, too plain, to be taken seriously. But they were wrong. Because the woman they had just humiliated was the true owner of the entire gala, and the one who held absolute power over the very ecosystem they depended on. The Avery Global Gala was the event of the year, held in the heart of Washington, D.C., at the opulent Meridian House, a mansion dripping with chandeliers and history. It wasn't just a fundraiser, it was a power play where the nation's elite, senators, CEOs, celebrities, and media moguls vied for influence. The guest list was curated with surgical precision. Only 200 invitations, each one a golden ticket to the inner circle of American wealth and politics. The air buzzed with anticipation, everyone waiting to see who'd secure the biggest grants, the most prestigious partnerships, or a nod from the Avery Foundation, the juggernaut that controlled funding for everything from education to defense contracts. Rose Avery slipped through the crowd unnoticed, her cloth backpack slung over one shoulder, her proposal for a free community library tucked under her arm. She'd spent months crafting it, pouring her heart into a vision of literacy and empowerment for kids in forgotten neighborhoods. Her linen dress, a soft ivory square neck she'd bought secondhand, swayed as she moved. Her sandals clicked softly on the marble floor. She didn't wear makeup, didn't need it. Her face was striking in its simplicity, with high cheekbones and eyes that held a quiet fire. But to the gala's guests, she was invisible. Or worse, a target. The lobby was a sea of couture gowns and tailored tuxedos, diamonds flashing under the lights. A tech billionaire in a velvet blazer sneered as Rose passed. "What's she doing here? Handing out pamphlets for a bake sale?" A congresswoman's aide, sipping champagne, leaned toward her boss. "Did they start inviting randos off the street? She looks like she teaches yoga at a community center." Laughter rippled through their clique, sharp and cutting. Rose didn't flinch. She kept her gaze forward, her steps steady, as if their words were just background noise. At the VIP check-in, a staffer in a crisp black suit barely glanced at her. "Name?" he asked, his tone clipped, already assuming she didn't belong. Rose offered her invitation, a plain card with a single embossed A. But before she could speak, a woman in a sequined gown elbowed past her. "Excuse me, I'm actually on the list," the woman said, flashing a diamond-encrusted wrist. The staffer waved her through, ignoring Rose entirely. "Ma'am," he said, turning back to her, "this area is for priority guests. You can try the general seating in the back." Rose nodded, unfazed, and stepped aside. She didn't argue, didn't raise her voice. She just stood there, clutching her papers, her expression serene but unyielding. That's when a young man in a tailored navy suit, Evan Caldwell, the senator's son with 1 million followers on social media, spotted her. He pulled out his phone, smirking, and started filming. "Yo, check this out," he said to his live stream, panning to Rose. "This chick thinks she's at the Avery Gala with a stack of printer paper and a thrift store dress. Like, what? You're gonna pitch a free library to billionaires? Good luck, sweetheart." His followers flooded the chat with laughing emojis and snarky comments. "She's got guts, I'll give her that," Evan chuckled, zooming in on her sandals. But this is next-level delusional. The crowd around him ate it up, their laughter growing louder, more vicious. A reality TV star in a plunging red dress joined in, tossing her hair. "Honey, this isn't a PTA meeting. Go home and change." A hedge fund manager, his cufflinks glinting, added, "She's probably here to beg for a grant. Should have at least borrowed a decent outfit." Rose stood still, her eyes tracing the intricate ceiling molding as if she were memorizing it. She didn't respond, didn't meet their gazes. But her silence wasn't weakness, it was a wall, impenetrable and calm. As Rose waited by the VIP check-in, a group of young heiresses in shimmering gowns circled her like vultures. One, clutching a Chanel purse, flicked her eyes over Rose's cloth backpack and snorted. "Is that her bag? I wouldn't use it to carry my dog's toys." Another leaned in, her voice dripping with venom. "Sweetie, this is the Avery Gala, not a soup kitchen. Why don't you save us all the embarrassment and leave?" They laughed, their voices echoing off the marble walls, drawing more eyes. A nearby photographer snapped a photo, muttering to his colleague, "This'll go viral. Homeless hippie crashes elite gala." Rose's fingers tightened around her invitation, but she didn't speak. Her face remained calm, almost ethereal, as if their words were rain sliding off glass. Yet every barb landed, and the room's delight in her pain was suffocating. Inside the ballroom, the energy was electric. Tables were set with crystal stemware, each centerpiece a cascade of orchids and gold leaf. The stage loomed at the front, framed by velvet curtains, where the night's big announcement would happen, the reveal of the gala's main sponsor, the one footing the bill for the entire event. Everyone assumed it would be Nathaniel Avery himself, the reclusive billionaire whose conglomerate, Avery Global, was a shadow government of its own, steering federal budgets and cultural tides. His absence in recent years had only fueled speculation, but tonight, the rumor was, he'd finally show. Rose found a seat at the edge of the room, near a service door where waitstaff slipped in and out. She set her papers on the table, smoothing them gently, and pulled a small notebook from her backpack to jot down a few thoughts. The woman next to her, a media heiress in a sapphire-encrusted gown, glanced over and scoffed. "Are you seriously writing in a spiral notebook? At the Avery Gala?" Her friend, a pop star with a platinum blonde bob, leaned in. Maybe she's journaling her feelings about being so out of place. They giggled, not bothering to lower their voices. Rose kept writing, her pen moving steadily, her face a mask of quiet focus. The gala kicked off with a string quartet, their music weaving through the chatter. The host, a silver-haired TV anchor with a voice like velvet, took the stage to welcome the crowd. "Tonight we celebrate not just philanthropy but power," he said, his smile dazzling. "The Avery Foundation has shaped our nation's future, education, infrastructure, policy, and we're here to see who'll lead that legacy forward." The room buzzed with anticipation, heads craning to spot Nathaniel Avery. Was he in the back, watching from a private box? The tension was palpable. As the night unfolded, the mockery of Rose didn't let up. A group of young influencers, clustered near the bar, took turns snapping photos of her from afar, captioning them with jabs like, "Hahed Gala Crasher," and "Who let her in?" Evan Caldwell, still live streaming, narrated her every move. "She's just sitting there flipping through her little papers like she's gonna change the world. Newsflash, you're not getting a dime looking like that." His chat exploded with hard eyes for his wit, urging him to keep going. A senator's wife, overhearing, leaned toward her husband. "It's embarrassing, really. They need to tighten security. People like her dilute the event." Rose, meanwhile, listened to the speeches. A tech mogul pledged $5 million for AI research. A congressman promised $3 million for veterans programs. Each announcement drew applause, but Rose's eyes stayed on her notebook, where she scribbled notes about literacy gaps in rural schools. When a waiter offered her a glass of champagne, she smiled and asked for water instead. "Plant-based diet, huh?" the waiter said, half joking. "You're probably the only one here who doesn't eat caviar." Rose laughed softly, her first sign of warmth. "Caviar's overrated," she said, and went back to her notes. During a break in the speeches, a prominent lobbyist approached Rose's table, his smirk barely hidden. He picked up her library proposal, flipping through it like it was a child's drawing. "Free libraries? For those kids?" he said, loud enough for nearby tables to hear. "Darling, you're wasting everyone's time. Stick to teaching yoga or whatever you do." He tossed the papers back, one page fluttering to the floor. As Rose knelt to pick it up, a passing socialite accidentally stepped on it, her stiletto leaving a smudge. "Oops," she giggled, not looking back. The room buzzed with stifled laughter, heads turning to watch Rose's humiliation. She retrieved the page, smoothed it gently, and sat back down, her expression unchanged. But the air around her felt heavier, charged with the crowd's glee at her expense. The room's cruelty peaked when Evan and his friends approached her table. He was still filming, his grin wide. "Hey, library lady," he called, loud enough to draw eyes. "What's your pitch?" Free books for kids? That's cute, but this is the big leagues. You're not going to get a meeting with Nathaniel Avery looking like you just rolled out of a commune. His friends snickered, and a few nearby tables joined in, their laughter like a wave crashing over her. Rose looked up, her eyes meeting Evan's for the first time. They were clear, steady, almost piercing. She didn't speak, just held his gaze until he faltered, chuckling nervously to his camera. "Tough crowd, huh?" he muttered, retreating. The gala moved toward its climax. The host returned to the stage, his expression grave yet electric. "Ladies and gentlemen, we've come to the moment you've all been waiting for. The Avery Foundation has always been a beacon of influence, and tonight we reveal not just the sponsor of this gala, but the new steward of Avery Global itself, the person who now controls its vast resources, its funding pipelines, its vision for America's future." The room went silent, forks clinking against plates forgotten. Everyone leaned forward, expecting Nathaniel Avery's towering figure to emerge. Instead, the host extended his arm toward the back of the room. "Please welcome the new owner of Avery Global, the woman now in charge of all political, educational, and media funding pipelines, Ms. Rose Avery." A gasp rippled through the crowd. Heads whipped around, searching for some glamorous figure in a corner suite. But then Rose stood, her linen dress catching the light, her sandals silent on the floor. She walked to the stage, her stack of papers still in hand, her hair still loose. The room was a tomb, every eye locked on her, mouths agape. Evan's phone slipped slightly, his live stream capturing his stunned face. The businesswoman with the Cartier necklace choked on her wine. The model who'd mocked her library look froze, her hand trembling around her clutch. Rose stepped into the spotlight, unchanged. No gown, no jewels, just her. She set her papers on the podium and looked out at the crowd, her gaze lingering on the front row, on Evan, the influencers, the senator's wife. Her voice, when she spoke, was calm but carried a weight that filled the room. "Tonight isn't just about raising money. It's about learning who truly deserves to be funded." She paused, letting the words sink in. "Because I can write a $10 million check. Or I can erase your name from this entire ecosystem, permanently." As Rose reached the podium, the spotlight caught the faint creases in her linen dress, a stark contrast to the room's opulence. She set her papers down, and for a moment the crowd held its breath, waiting for her to falter. But then she spoke, her voice steady, slicing through the silence. "I am Nathaniel Avery's daughter. For 7 years I've lived among you, unseen, to understand the world my father's empire shapes. Every dollar you've chased, every deal you've made, every dream you've funded, it's been under my watch." The room reeled, faces paling as the truth sank in. Evan's phone trembled in his hand, his live stream now broadcasting his own downfall. The businesswoman's Cartier necklace glinted as she clutched it, her empire suddenly fragile. Rose stood tall, her simplicity now a crown, her quiet power undeniable. The silence was deafening. Evan's live stream chat exploded with question marks and shocked emojis, his followers scrambling to process what they'd just heard. The senator's wife gripped her husband's arm, her face pale. The media heiress dropped her fork, the clatter echoing in the hush. The crowd's shock deepened as Rose's words hung in the air. She lifted her gaze, her eyes locking onto the senator's wife, who'd called her a dilution of the event. "You thought I was a nobody," she said, her tone even but piercing. "But I've been the one signing your grants, approving your projects, watching every move you've made. My father built Avery Global, but I'm the one who's been running it. Silently. Until now." The room seemed to shrink, her presence filling every corner. The pop star's platinum bob trembled as she realized her latest tour had been bankrolled by Rose's approval. The tech mogul's wife, who'd mocked her as the help, sank into her chair, her face a mask of dread. Rose's simplicity was no longer a joke. It was a testament to her strength, a badge of her dominion. Rose didn't raise her voice, didn't gloat. She simply continued. 7 years ago, my father, Nathaniel Avery, gave me a choice. Live as one of you, ordinary, unseen, to learn what the world really needs. I've taught children to read in crumbling schools. I've eaten meals that cost less than your coffee. I've listened to people you'd never notice. And I've built something real. She held up her papers, the library proposal. This is the Quiet Power Initiative, a network of free libraries across America, starting with the kids who need them most. I'm funding it myself. $50 million to start, no grants needed. The crowd was still processing, some whispering, others too shocked to move. Rose's eyes swept the room again, steady and unflinching. But let me be clear. This ecosystem, your projects, your campaigns, your legacies, depends on Avery Global. And I decide who stays in it. Those who build, who serve, who see beyond themselves. They'll thrive. Those who tear down, who mock, who think power is a game. She paused, her gaze cutting to Evan, then the influencers, then the businesswoman. You're done. The weight of her words landed like a guillotine. Evan's phone was still recording, but his hand shook. His scholarship from the Avery Foundation, his White House internship, his entire future flashed before his eyes. The influencers who'd snapped her photo suddenly scrambled to delete their posts, their faces ashen. The senator's wife whispered frantically to her husband, who was already dialing his chief of staff, desperate to salvage their funding. Rose didn't linger on them. She turned back to the crowd, her voice softening, but no less commanding. The Quiet Power Initiative isn't just about books. It's about giving people a chance to rise, to be seen, to be heard. I've seen what happens when you invest in the overlooked. And I'm here to make sure that happens, starting tonight. She stepped down from the stage, her sandals clicking softly, and returned to her seat. The room erupted in a mix of stunned applause and panicked murmurs. The host, recovering, stammered through a transition to the next speaker, but no one was listening. All eyes were on Rose, who sat quietly, flipping through her notebook as if nothing had changed. By morning, the fallout was swift and merciless. Evan Caldwell's Avery Foundation scholarship was revoked, his internship canceled with a single email from the White House. His live stream, meant to mock Rose, went viral for all the wrong reasons, his name now synonymous with arrogance and ruin. The influencers who'd posted her photos were blacklisted from Avery-funded events, their brand deals drying up overnight. The businesswoman with the Cartier necklace learned her company's $20 million education grant had been pulled, redirected to Rose's library program. The senator's wife and her husband faced a brutal reality. Their pet projects, from think tanks to campaign funds, were cut off, their influence gutted in hours. By dawn, the elite's world was unraveling. The reality TV star who'd told Rose to go home woke to an email. Her Avery-funded docuseries, her ticket to legitimacy, was canceled. Her name scrubbed from the foundation's roster. She stared at her phone, her red dress from the gala crumpled on the floor, her career in ashes. The hedge fund manager, who'd sneered about her outfit, found his firm's $15 million defense contract reassigned to a competitor, a curt note from Avery Global citing ethical misalignment. His cufflinks felt like shackles now, his arrogance a noose. Social media lit up with screenshots of their mockery, now captioned with their downfall. Karma's real. The audience watching Evan's archived livestream cheered as his smug grin became a symbol of self-destruction, his future erased by the woman he'd called delusional. Rose, meanwhile, was already at work. She met with community leaders in a small D.C. office, her cloth backpack on the floor, her proposal now a blueprint. The Quiet Power Initiative launched its first library in a neglected neighborhood with plans for 50 more by year's end. She didn't gloat, didn't seek the spotlight, she just worked, her quiet power reshaping the world one step at a time. The influencers who'd tagged Rose with #GalaCrasher were now ghosts in the elite circle. Their invites to Avery-backed events, fashion weeks, charity balls, premieres vanished, their follower counts plummeting as brands distanced themselves. One posted a tearful apology video, but it was too late. Rose's team had already flagged her for exclusion from future funding. The photographer who'd snapped Rose's viral humiliation found his press credentials revoked, his agency dropped him, and his viral moment became his undoing. Online, the public reveled in the justice. Memes of Rose's serene face captioned, "Never judge the quiet ones," flooding every platform. The elite who'd laughed at her sandals now faced a new reality. Rose Avery didn't just win. She rewrote the rules, and they were out of the game. The gala's elite had laughed at her sandals, her papers, her dreams. They'd seen a nobody, but Rose Avery was no nobody. She was the future, and she'd just rewritten theirs. This is the power of the unseen. If this story hit you in the heart, like, share, comment, and subscribe for more.